So Square Enix's Outriders has been out for a while now, and since its release, we've been teased and promised with a number of new updates and features to be added to the game. Patches have been released to improve gameplay, and we even received an expansion pack with New Horizon, and we'll be expecting the newest expansion, World Slayer, sometime in 2022. Still, there's been a number of letdowns, most notably cross-compatibility with Google Stadia, which was first announced back in April, and then we were promised November back in October, but we're still waiting on that. Either way, we'll be taking a closer look at Outriders' overall performance in a comparison to see which service runs this action RPG better, Google Stadia or the Xbox cloud gaming platform. Since Outriders' most recent patch, 1.16.0.0, Google Stadia is finally up to date with other platforms, and we should expect to see some improvements in performance and quality on both services. We're going to run a speed test to see which platform goes from launch to the game's main screen first. Now, just getting onto the platform, Google Stadia is much faster than Xbox Cloud Gaming. For a while now, Xbox will sign users out every time you close the browser, even though you are given the option to stay signed in. And even when you press the button to sign into your account, you have to wait a while with a blank white screen before you return back to the main page to select the game. To make sure both services get an even match, we'll start the clock right from when I press the play button on both platforms. Now, in previous patches, Stadia tends to get to the start screen a bit faster than xCloud, and if we were measuring from the login, it'd be more than likely that Stadia will beat xCloud every time. xCloud is the first to make it into the game's intro video, with Stadia coming in about 3 seconds afterwards. It may be difficult to see due to the split screens, but both platforms take a few moments to render their maximum resolution. xCloud comes in around 720, then fully renders to 1080p. Stadia does the same, coming in around 720, then gradually makes its way to what it seems to be 4K a bit later. You even notice that the video stutters a bit right before reaching its full resolution. In the end, xCloud beat Stadia by about 3 seconds to fully launch the game. Now, this could be for a few reasons. First, I could have made a mistake and not started the race exactly at the same time, but that can only be for a few moments of a second. Although xCloud does win this first race, 3 seconds isn't a super long time. Instead, if we had to wait a minute or more for Stadia to launch. We'll see how fast it takes for both games to get from the start screen to actually get in-game. In previous patches, while xCloud was a bit slower to get to the start screen, it was consistently faster than Stadia to actually get in-game. Again, since Stadia is streaming in 4K, this may be the reason for its slower speeds. xCloud gets us in the game first, so even with the differences in resolution, at their best, since patch 1.16.0.0, xCloud will get you playing faster than Google Stadia across the board. Now, this may change with further patches and updates, but as of right now, if you're all about speed, xCloud is the way to go. Both Google Stadia and xCloud are comparable with their graphics packages. Both are capable of running 720 to 1080p 60 frames per second, which is still the overall standard for a number of years now. But if you're a Google Stadia Pro member, you have the option to play your titles up to full 4K 60 FPS. Both Google Stadia and xCloud pride themselves in their mission to give users the best streaming experience. So when it comes to graphics settings, they tell us they have us covered. So for Outriders, they completely limit your choices to only 2 to 3 options. On xCloud, you're literally given 2 options. You can either adjust your brightness or turn motion blur on or off. That is it. Google Stadia doesn't have a motion blur setting, but in addition to brightness, they do give you the option to gear your performance to high frame rate, meaning you'll get smoother gameplay and faster response, or high resolution, which will give you higher quality images. Now, most of you probably had Google Stadia win this round because xCloud doesn't offer 4K like Stadia, but is it actually playable? Although xCloud doesn't have 4K capabilities, it ran much smoother at 1080p. Google Stadia did well for the most part, except there was some noticeable stutter during cutscenes and gameplay, a problem xCloud never had. So you have 2 options. Would you rather have the best possible quality, or for less resolution, have a consistent graphic experience? One unique feature that I noticed while playing was the actual input map and animation of the controller I was using. Most cloud gaming videos you watch features players using Xbox controllers, which is the standard gamepad across PC gaming. We instead play with our DualSense PS5 controller to see how well each platform will play with the gamepad. Navigating throughout the menus work pretty well on both platforms, however Google actually goes the extra mile. When starting any Google Stadia game, a controller will be linked automatically after pressing a button, and you'll be notified with an alert in the upper left hand corner. Stadia's default gamepad is their Stadia Premier controller, which follows the ABXY keybinding map. Now, instead of requiring players to navigate menus by remembering the ABXY bindings for Xbox, Stadia, and third-party controllers, Google Stadia transitioned the key map and animations to the X, square, circle, and triangle inputs, which are found on my PS5 controller immediately. I even did some testing to see how easy the system could switch between gamepads, and Stadia instantly transitions between the PlayStation, Stadia Premier, and Xbox One gamepads, which also changed the key binding map to match whatever controller I was using. Now, while I didn't have any problems playing with the PS5 controller on xCloud, the platform does not adjust the mapping, and players are required to remember the key bindings for Xbox controllers. When looking at actual gameplay, the question I asked before about the best possible quality versus consistency makes even more sense. xCloud ran smoothly throughout my entire playthrough of the game. I didn't have a single problem going from mission to mission, and I didn't experience any stuttering, skipping, or bad latency. Now, when I played on Google Stadia, I had the occasional stutter, but the game played well in the beginning. But the game actually crashed on me in the middle of my recording. This happened a second time, and even though Stadia will save your position from where you left off in the game, this would be a huge issue if I was live streaming, or if the game had crashed in the middle of a big moment of a mission. Even though this was the first time that this has ever happened playing Outriders on this platform, it may have been a fluke, and again, things happen. But what's the point of 4K if I can't rely on it from working from start to finish? And because of that, if I had to make a choice, I'm definitely going with xCloud. Even though I was playing at a lower resolution, I'd much rather have a consistent, reliable service than deal with the possibility of a crash or some other issue. The winner of this comparison is without a doubt xCloud, and it's not just because xCloud beat Google Stadia in all of our tests. xCloud was simply the more reliable platform. With Google Stadia's stuttering issues and the biggest being the 2 game crashes, I can't find a reason to pick Stadia over xCloud with this game. Now, that's not to say that this will be the case with every game we review with these 2 platforms. Both services have their shortcomings, but the possibility of a game with consistent 4K and a cool key map feature is simply not enough for me to choose Stadia over Xbox at this time. But I could be completely wrong. I'll have you make the choice. And if I missed anything, comment down below. The rest of this video will be clips from my gameplay so you can compare both platforms. Thanks everyone for watching. Like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications to stay up to date with everything that we do. Check out some of our other videos here, and for more news, gameplay, comparisons, and much more, stay in the only place where you can do battle in gaming heaven, Cloud Gaming Battle.